Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, the countdown has just begun. Are you ready? Let's go.
Now we're back from the dead.
I was so excited the other day. I was going through iTunes. I was just like, I need some new music. I tweeted about it. I was like, I want some good lockdown music when you like get in the zone. You know, we've been like doing interviews for Ghost Girl Diaries, and for those of you that asked, I haven't made any decisions yet just because I want to make sure that I pick all the right people. So we're still looking if anybody's out there in Vegas that's interested in being a part of it. But I found out that No Copyright Sounds has what I use for like the intro and outro on Ghost Girl Diaries.
Back from the dead.
So I was like, oh my god, this is so exciting. So like some days, you know, like we all get in bad moods, or like, you know, you're mad at your boss or whatever, and you're just like, ugh, I'm bummed out. Or you have a lot of work and you're like, oh, this work day's never gonna end. So I've been just like randomly at work just blasting this because it reminds me of you guys. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm gonna talk about this creepy place that I used to investigate all the time when I lived in Colorado. And you may have heard about it. It's been on like a few of the haunted shows, like travel shows, like on Travel Channel. I think it was America's Most Haunted. It was featured on there. So it's this weird place that's in the middle of Denver, and it's called Cheesman Park. Cheesman Park has the weirdest history ever. And the really cool thing is it's right in the center of downtown Denver. You know, most parks in Colorado do close at like 10 to midnight, but the police will not go in and kick you out because it's so haunted. So why is Cheesman Park haunted? What makes it so schmancy that all these ghosts want to hang out there? Actually, it's kind of morbid and really sad at the same time. So basically in 1858, you know, we're talking about like cowboy days, western days. This dude comes in, he buys this big lot of land. I think it was like 300 to 320 acres of land that he decided to devote to specific grave cemetery lots in the middle of Denver, okay? In 1860, the owner signed this treaty because originally the land was owned by Native Americans. So anyway, they gave the land, you know, into the government, basically. I think the government purchased this 320 acres for like $150 or $200. So for some reason, in 1890, so that's about 30 years later, they decide that they're gonna take this cemetery that's in the middle of Denver and turn it into a park. There was a contractor that was hired. His name was E.P. McGovern, and this dude was rotten. So he was basically hired as a contractor to go into the ground, into the lots of, you know, the cemetery, dig up all the bodies. He was legally supposed to move them to another cemetery, but of course, in the olden days, he wasn't getting a contract amount for the whole thing. He got contract amounts for the amount of bodies that he dug up with his team and crew. So at first, of course, he was like digging up the bodies, and they had to like name them with, you know, the gravestones. So this contractor ends up getting like $1.90 to like remove each body. That's what it costs and what he's getting paid out for bodies. And he ends up running into a lot of the area of the cemetery that's actually like kids, you know, so it's smaller coffins. So they end up like digging those up really quick. Families of the people that were buried there were told that they could remove their family member and remove them somewhere else. But a lot of people couldn't afford it because it was like an excavation process. So this company was supposed to do it for them, basically. This Mr. McGovern figures out really fast that, oh my gosh, I just undug, you know, all these like child-size coffins. and I got money for them. So what if I unbury all of these bodies and I cut the bodies up and put part of their bones or bodies into like smaller coffins, and I can get money for it quicker? And ew, that's like so brutal and disgusting. So that's what this guy did. Mr. McGovern starts telling his crew to basically chop up the bodies. If you find a couple bones, throw them in one bin, and that's one body, and this is another body, and you just get, you don't know how the deterioration process is going to be. And I highly doubt whoever was paying him was actually checking for like a full skeletal system. So this starts in 1983, the excavation process. And the first few days went normal. I think there was like a lot of onlookers that were watching because this is like right in the heart of downtown Denver. But eventually people got bored of watching it, and that's when he started doing his little tricky, sly ways. And I can't even imagine how hard it is hacking up bodies and putting them in smaller bins. And how would you feel okay with that as like a human being? There were open coffins. Of course, people and loved ones are going to bury, their loved ones with jewelry or whatever. So what happens? You start getting like body snatchers and grave diggers and people that are going through these bodies because it was a mess. It's claimed it was a mess. Like they had bodies everywhere, and then they would close down shop for the evening to go home from work, and they would just leave the bodies out in pieces, and then people were coming in and robbing the skeletons, and the city ended up catching on. Like people were seeing this happen because it was like a really high profile area, and the dude ends up getting in trouble. So obviously McGovern was fired from his position, but it was claimed he told the city that he did complete it. I think they did have some excavators come in and try to make sure that they got all of the remains up. I don't know if that was really a job anybody wanted to do, honestly. Before they start the process of turning it into a park, they're filling up all of the holes. It ends up taking a few years. They're putting in real grass seed. Of course, that's going to take some time for it to all come up, for all of the land to level out from it being graves. And finally, in 1902, they're going to open it as a public park. So now one really cool thing about Cheesman Park is in the middle, there's this like Colosseum almost thing. And it's made out of marble. It's huge. It almost looks like it's out of like Romanian Greek era. It's these huge pillars and like this big open area. I don't know if they'd planned for people to get married at Cheesman Park. Maybe people have. I don't know of anyone, and I'm native there. But basically this huge Roman thing was donated in 1909. It was donated by the family named Cheeseman, hence the name Cheesman Park. There was a lot of money in Denver, like in the old days. Down in old downtown Denver, in like the real nice downtown area, there's just mansions everywhere, and most of them are really haunted because they're so old. So what happens next? You can only imagine. The ground settles. Oh, we have this beautiful park. We're planting shrubs and trees, and people are walking through the park with their dogs and kids, I'm sure, and all of a sudden, there's a frickin' femur bone sticking out of the damn grass. To this day, they still think there's about 2,000 bodies buried inside of Cheesman Park. Now it sucks, like they can't do anything about it. It could cost millions of dollars at this point to pull up all of the land and search through all of the soil. When this excavator went in to basically do this project, he was not only like tearing bodies apart, but he was also like so lazy, he would just like throw a bone here and throw one there. He didn't want to excavate because once again, that's a really dirty job. I don't think you realize what it is until you're getting into it, right? I'm telling you guys, to this day, bones are still found, I swear, and it freaks people out. This community around Cheesman Park, there's a lot of apartment complexes now, and I'm talking like high stories, many stories of apartments. And all these people, use this park for exercise. They run, they ride their bikes, they walk their dogs, they walk their kids. And every once in a while, the city will come in and say, this area of the park needs, some more shrubs or greenery or whatever. And the excavators don't expect anything, but they go in to pull up all this old shrubbery, and all of these bones basically are unearthed. And it's so crazy haunted, guys. So apparently, right when the bodies started being like excavated by the contractor in like 1893, the contractor and the workers claimed that's when paranormal activity started. That they would go to like remove a body or even, take one apart, and they would feel like hands grab them on the wrist. And, there's apparitions that they're seeing. A lot of the looters from the graves, when that was happening, they would actually go to like rob the bodies of the graves that were being excavated, and they would get like grabbed or like, shook on the shoulders at night, and they would go tell the police, well, I was getting ready to loot the bodies, but there's ghosts that I felt someone grabbed me and I just want to report it. I mean, it's really strange, the history that goes on with Cheesman Park. So I moved out of Colorado almost 2 years ago now, and we went down there about 6 months before I left, and lo and behold, there's some excavators that had pulled up some like really old rose shrubbery that was like kind of dying, and they had the yellow caution tape all around, and it's because they're finding human remains. And it happens all the time. It's one of those places that if you go down there and you see, the excavation with the yellow taping, you know what they found. And they will not ever disclose it on the news because they don't want to freak people out. I mean, that's such a family-oriented area down in the heart of Denver. But it's just something that the community has accepted, that it's very haunted. So I've ghost hunted there 100 times, honestly. Like, if you're bored, and I've taken gear down there, and I've gone even without gear. It's just one of those places that never fails to have some sort of activity. I've felt, being pushed. I've been grabbed. I felt my hand touched. The marble coliseum that I was telling you guys about, it's very eerie. Like, when you walk into it and stand there, I can't explain, like, maybe it's a vortex, I'm not sure, but it almost has like negative decibels. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, if you've ever been somewhere where all of a sudden the sound level feels like it's in a negative decibel. That's what this like Greek Colosseum feels like, the energy when you walk into it. I have gotten EVPs out of there, and it's usually, the EVPs I get at Cheesman Park are always very confused apparitions. Now, not only was this a cemetery for regular day-to-day people, but they also had areas for like in prisoners, like if prisoners would pass away, that's where they would take them to be buried. And so a lot of these souls may have been kind of disturbed. I think that there was a couple asylums in Denver. I think that they would take them there if they would pass away. A lot of the apparitions that are seen at Cheesman Park are actually apparitions of people that are in hospital gowns. So that would make sense to me with the asylum. There's been a lot of reports of people that say they have this person that's in like a bloody hospital gown or something, and they're confused and they're like calling out for help. Oddly, that is all of the EVPs I've ever captured at Cheesman Park. That is what I've captured. It's usually this, help me, I don't, where am I? Like this confused soul. I've never been followed home from Cheesman Park. I don't know why. That's one of those places I've just never been followed home from. But I will say the energy down there feels different. I can't explain it, especially being a native to Denver. Like, I know all of downtown Denver and the suburbs because I lived in the suburbs, but it's just different. It feels quiet. It feels very still at Cheesman Park. And if you guys live in Denver, because I know I have some followers, 303 out there, make sure you go to Cheesman Park. And I'd love to hear if you guys tell me if it's still haunted. Is it more haunted than it used to be? What did you guys capture? I love it when you guys get back to me, especially like with Riverdale Road and all that stuff. Denver has some of the best haunts, honestly. just because it was like the Western days, you know? It was cool. It's a really cool town. It's a cool city. I love sharing my stories with you guys, so make sure you let me know of anything else you want to chat about in Colorado. Please give my video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Make sure you leave me good comments below about what you guys want to chat about next, and I will catch you guys next time.
We're back from the dead. Back from the dead. Back from the dead.